Well, we are joined now by an e-hailing driver who says he was recently approached by taxi drivers who demanded a permit from him. Of course, we'll keep his identity anonymous for his safety on this particular conversation. Good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this evening. When were you approached by these taxi drivers?
Thanks a lot, Mr. Mduli. I was approached by the taxi operators in Johannesburg CBD. The name of the street is Van Brandy Street, next to Johannesburg High Court.
So it happened today?
It happened on Friday.
It happened on Friday. Okay.
Yes.
The issue of the permit seems to be at the heart of what is, I suppose, keeping you unsafe on the roads. I mean, is that the only thing that they ask for when they confront you?
No. They told me that the government, specifically the MEC for Road and Transport in Gauteng, the government must make sure that we are regulated. But that process is a government process that needs to be done by government. But what they did to me was to block me and took off the client of the vehicle. And then they took me next to Carlton Center, where they held me for at least 1.5 hours. And then they demanded cash, that is 1,530 the fine, or they were going to impound the vehicle.
Now, as an operator, I mean, the MEC says she believes, one, a targeted campaign, Operation Ziveze, for example, is going to assist. Two, tighten the database of contacts, clean it up. There are those who are there fraudulently, identify them, remove them, outdated records, and so on and so forth, and have a digital system in place. She seems to think that if this is fast-tracked, one, there'll be fairness, there'll be more transparency, you'll be safer, the passengers will be safer, and the intimidation will stop. Are you convinced by that?
Well, I appreciate what the MEC is doing and her team in Gauteng. And I agree with what she says, most of the things what she mentioned there in that interview. I do agree with her. But the thing is here, Mr. Mzuli, people on the ground, the taxi operators, specifically the guys from the taxi, what they call squad patrollers from the taxi associations on the ground. Those are the guys that are intimidating e-hailing operators. They are telling us about the malls belong to them. Especially to what they said to me on Friday, that we are not allowed near to any mall. I'm not allowed next to Carlton Center. And they even said to me, we are stubborn. One of our colleagues was killed and burned to death, but still we are operating next to taxi ranks. And I explained to them that, look, guys, I was coming up the road next to Joburg High Court. I'm not near any taxi rank. But still they said this is their area. Yeah. So the MEC and the leadership of the taxi associations, e-hailing, the community members, we must come together, including some of the community members, because those are the customers for the taxi industry, for e-hailing as well.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you say that taxi operators said to you one of your members was torched and killed, yet you're still not learning a lesson, you're still coming to operate here? Is that what they said to you in those words?
That's what they said to me in my face, directly to me.
So are they taking ownership of what happened in Maponya Mall in a sense?
From what the guys that were there inside my car, they are taking ownership. And the thing is, for MEC and the negotiating team, it's one thing. But to send a message to the ground and for the guys to be instructed and follow what they've agreed on, is one thing, you know.
E-hailing operator, they're speaking to us on conditions of anonymity. We appreciate your time. Just Friday, as we, the country, are still grappling with the situation that took place at Maponya Mall. He says he was confronted by taxi operators on the ground, that is, drivers. Now, meanwhile, the South African Taxi or National Taxi Council has called on government to urgently implement the amended National Land Transport Act regulations relating to the e-hailing sector. For more on this, we're joined now by Transport Portfolio Committee Chairperson Donald Tsilamulela, South African Meter Taxi and E-Hailing Association Sibongiseni Shange, and e-hailing spokesperson Vatuka Belenua. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time, and thank you for coming on this evening. Let me begin right there, I mean, with yourself. What is your sense of what are the issues? I mean, and are these issues that are going to be solved merely by forming a transport crisis committee, which brings everybody on the table, taxi drivers, e-hailing drivers, local municipalities, province, and everybody else to come and help the Gauteng regulating authority to issue permits lawfully, fairly, and transparently?
Mr. Mdluli, I think we can describe the situation that I think, as it stands right now, there's a lack of an appreciation that Uber is a global disruptor. In every country they have entered, they have disrupted, and they have had negative disruptions in many countries. As a country, we need to elevate this discussion and stop being obsessed with wanting to vilify the minibus taxi industry. I am not saying we must not hold people to account. I am not saying we must not arrest people. I am not saying we must not challenge Santaco and NTA. We need to appreciate that Uber is a global disruptor, and our transportation sector has been negatively disrupted. And who's missing from this dialogue? The MEC is sitting at Maponya with us participants, local participants. Nobody is calling for apps to be called to account. Yeah. Uber CEO is not there. Bolt CEO is not there. But they've got the right to deploy their technology unregulated, irresponsibly, with people dying. The MEC is not bringing new ideas. The MEC is replaying an old book. Yeah. What she did, Mama Bulo failed with already. Yeah. You understand? They will keep us busy. They'll spend government money on engagement. Yeah. But Uber and Bolt are not part of the dialogue. Right. It is their technology that is creating this problem. Right. It's their lack of regulation in deploying and fleet control and influx control, which is undermining the whole public transport sector. Mr. Mdluli, I sat with you a decade ago when we had our first strike, and we warned that this is starting in the meter taxis. It's going to spill over into the minibus taxi industries. Should we not regulate and put controls and oversight? And all I hear today is that the monsters in the taxis are killing everybody. Now, we must speak about the burnings as a national crisis. This is not the first burning, unfortunately. The first time, it was also a young man from KZN who was graduating in Pretoria, burnt in the boot of his vehicle. The industry was also plagued by some psychopaths who would burn drivers and laugh. These are incidents that are on record, right? And we have then said in our recommendations to say, can we make sure we are capturing positive identity for both riders and drivers? So we are able to be sure who's requesting our people hijacking them, who's requesting our people. And this is
the request you've made to the companies, the app owners.
We have made this request to government. We have made these recommendations in writing. We have made oral recommendations. We have participated at the Competition Commission, which has made recommendations.
I want to understand, you're saying government, you must demand that the app operators or the companies, all the Ubers, and they must put that technology in place that is able to identify.
Government needs to reimagine transportation so it can reimagine how it regulates the space.
All right, let's speak to Donald. Donald, what do you say when you hear that? What you have imagined as the National Land Transport Amendment Act is not addressing what should be addressed as far as what is required in the industry?
Look, I must indicate, first I must greet the fellow panelists and equally on the same vein, greet viewers at home and yourself, Mdluli. One is to indicate first that it would not have been the first time that we had to amend the Land Transport Act, because if you remember in the role play, the industry players will remember that when the meter taxi arrived in the space, there was a need to respond to that. And I think it's the fifth parliament, if not the fourth parliament, dealt with that by amending the act. The sixth parliament equally effected the changes to or amendment to the Transport Act, the Land Transport Act, to ensure that we give a space for regulation of this new industry. Indeed, the e-hailing industry comes as an industry that actually responds to the technological advances of the moment. Now, what is lacking in the process is that from our part of the parliament's point of view, we have done everything that had to be done until the president last year around June signed into act the amendments, make sure that that particular amendment bill becomes an act. That has been done. What is outstanding now, which we call on the department to act as speedily as possible on, is to ensure that the regulations, which are now supposed to give breather to this particular law, are actually published, ensure that they are actually effected and implemented, because when they are implemented, this jogging around, these changes that are there will then be able to be regulated, because each of every industry player will know what is his role and where he must play. The law enforcement agencies will also now know how to then ensure that they guard and protect everyone. At the end, the users must be protected. All the industry players must be able to be protected. The Parliament of the Republic has done its part.
So
you're
satisfied that the powers, because one of the, there are a couple of areas regulating of e-hailing, what constitutes an e-hailing, that framework is in place. Two, safety measures. Are those amendments adequate to ensure there's safety for all? Three, ministerial authority. Four, the powers that are given to the municipality and to the province. Because that's what you're saying now. You're saying we've done our bit. Now it's up to province and it's up to the municipalities that are supposed to then enforce this, to come up with regulations to say how they're going to operate. So are you giving them enough powers?
We have done our part in terms of giving them powers. And at a point, you see, if we were discussing now to say we are implementing this regulation, but there are these shortfalls, we'll be speaking a different story. The problem we have now is that these regulations have not been fully implemented to the extent that you have limitations. And when you have these limitations and these regulations are not fully implemented, you can't then be able to know where are the shortfalls. Right. But if this implementation was in place, we'll then be able to know, here are the shortfalls, these are the challenges, and from the point of view of Parliament, we'll then be able to effect the necessary amendment if it warrants. As it stands, there is nothing that says what the Parliament, the sixth Parliament, and now supported by now the seventh Parliament has done, has not actually given life. Right. So we expect our colleagues to ensure, at government point of view, to ensure that they speed up this particular process, they publish them, their comments where they are supposed to be commented, they bring all the industry players together to ensure that these regulations are in place and the law enforcement agencies are equally briefed so that we don't have these challenges that are there.
Yes, well, certainly the Parliament says we've done our bit. It's now over to province and municipalities to do their bit. The province says, well, here's what we've done to try and speed up this process. We've invited everybody to come on the table, the entire transport sector, including the e-hailing operators, to also come on the table to help us map out these regulations so that we can speed up the process. Is that enough?
No, that's not enough. Yes, we meet each and every Friday on a crisis committee with the MEC. But in as far as the regulations are concerned, that has not been implemented, to be quite honestly. As far as I know, it has not been implemented. I heard that it was still on Gazette. So the provinces are not sure if they are quite aware of that. We have been using the Meter Taxi Act all along, of which it plays along with the e-hailing in as far as the market is concerned. And I'm not really sure what is difficult from the government to make sure that that kind of act, in as far as the meter tax is concerned, has been is being emphasized in terms of the operation, because there's only one definition The operator is an operator because of compliance. The operator is an operator because of operating license. You won't define an operator in any other way. Now, the coming of the technology, which is tech companies, where the apps, they define an operator as a driver, a person who's got a PDP, who can just wake up and then download the app and then be able to ferry people on the reward without having to follow all the processes. Even the government itself, they don't have a database of those people who are operating. Hence, the market is flooded. Hence, the market is frustrated. Hence, the market is also compromising everyone else, even the partners who are on this system. They are frustrated. They are frustrated because of they're not enough for them to survive. So at the end of the day, the system is broken. It does not work for anyone. So the government has been a failure. I mean, we participated in terms of making an input in terms of the amendment bill. That was how many years ago? 8 years ago. Uber has been here 12 years ago. So you'll find that in few years, or not even in few years, soon there will be another system that is going to come into the transport, and the same system will have to amend again, and it will take us another 12 years to amend the law and be able to make sure that we bring about controls.
All right.
So I don't understand, because of when we speak about what happened in Maponya Mall, it's criminality. It doesn't reflect Santaco. It doesn't reflect the taxi industry. It's criminality. This kind of brutal crime is something that we live with in this country, in every sector, and everywhere. We know that on daily basis people are killed. And this is very concerning that we have a government that does not take accountability. And we got these companies that are here. It has not been taking accountability for more than a decade now. We have been talking the same thing.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back, continue the conversation. Still with me, Donald Sislamulela, with us as well in the studio. I've got Vatuka Mbelengwa as well as Bongiseni Shange also there online. We'll continue with our panel after the break. Back here on the late edition, here, Newzroom Afrika, channel 405. Of course, we are taking your thoughts on this conversation. We've got some WhatsApp messages, and we've got some of you calling us. The WhatsApp number 072-110-5584. Otherwise, 0105946010. That's where you can give us a call. We've got Muremedi in Pretoria. Muremedi, good evening. Thank you very much for coming on this evening. What are your thoughts around the delays in regulations and how these are affecting, I suppose, the safety and escalating the violence within the transport sector?
Yes. Evening there, my brother. Evening, and all the team there, Mr. Mbelengwa. Good evening there. My worry, and since this incident of the e-hailing in Soweto. There's a gentleman that was talking from the e-hailing side. After he has talked, he said to the MEC that the government must fix their permits. And then somewhere again during the week in another radio, there's a lady that was interviewed also there. She said she's having e-hailing, and her son is also operating, and two other people falling under her. But she was also complaining of the permits. So then it came to me to say, why isn't as if we are, hiding this one, we don't go straight to the point. My question is now, when people are complaining of the permits, and it's like the government is not doing anything, how do you then operate without a permit?
Right.
And then even the e-hailing management, the people who are on the ground there, how many of them do they have the permits? Okay. So I think it's not that maybe I don't feel for what happened there, the people who died there. But the cause, I think, is the government here. The cause is the government here. They must go straight to the point and assist those people. And what is the conditions of the permits? If you are operating an Uber and you don't have a permit, you don't even know the conditions of how should you operate, where and how, because it's like the regulations are not explained to you. Yeah. So here I am blaming the government. The government must go straight and then try to assist these people and regulate this thing if they want to regulate it. If not, then
they don't want it, then they must go straight to these people that they should not operate. But how do they operate without permit?
Right, Muremedi, much appreciated. Thank you for your input. Let's have a look at what you're saying on WhatsApp there. Paladi saying e-hailing services needs to be regulated and the government needs to act against the lawless taxi industry. Nseko saying, look, we must put matters under carpet. All right, look, we must put matters under carpet. Government has totally failed dismally. I applied for a permit 10 years ago, more than 4 times as a meter taxi. Till today, nothing. Is that not a disgrace? Shame. My name appears on the system. Uber came here yesterday but got a license to operate. This has failed dismally, failing the South African citizens, he's saying then. Nseko. Tabiso Faba from Pretoria. Good evening there. Tabo, this is absurd that a democratic country still has to deal with unruly taxi operators because they feel entitled. This is nonsensical. Some of the views there. Mzet in Matatiela. Mzet, good evening. Welcome.
How are you?
I'm fine. Hope you're well too.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. What's on your mind?
On my mind, let's say good evening for us, firstly, of South Africa as we're following this dispute of taxi and the e-hailer of Johannesburg. Even the first thing was following this misunderstanding. What is important in our country, each and every one, they must know by everyone, you want to put bread in the table. In the South African, for everyone, there's no opportunity in bread. If someone affording to have a small car to assist to transport people to the villages and to the bad places where the Kwandam not going there, the guys of the Kwandam must think we say it must be power, everything is belong to us, must allow those small ones because now they want to do something, they want to work, but the department must be selfish, stay in their office, not doing the job. This country must have a document, must have a regulation and procedures, how to work, must register those small cars and give them the law and monitor the police, but everyone not stopping any front of one saying you are not allowed to go. But the department not doing the
let
job.
me hear you properly. You're saying you are not against your small cars if they also, for economic reasons, want to load people. They must also get properly regulated. They must also get a proper permit.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
You agree.
I agree, but the guys of Kwandam, when you look there, the guys of Kwandam, they don't want to give those ones space. The corruption.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree, Mr.
Yeah.
I saying those guys of taxis, mostly they're using this corruption was announced by Mr. Mkwanas. You find by all those guys of transport, they are corrupting the department. The Department of Transport, they are not doing their job to register to one, because sometimes when you are in the department, another side you are in the taxi, obviously it's going to bias. You are not doing the job as supposed to do.
Mzet, I appreciate your time and thank you for your call. I'll get the fellas here to respond to those issues that you are raising there tonight. Right, let's take a break. We'll wrap up this conversation with our panel in a moment. Back with you on the late edition on the panel tonight. Transport Portfolio Committee Chairperson Donald Silamulela, South African Meter Taxi and E-Hailing Association Sibongiseni Shange, as well as E-Hailing spokesperson Vatuka Belengwa with us here in the studio. Okay, we've taken your calls as well on 010-594-6010 or on WhatsApp 072-110-5584 on X as well. You can engage us on the handle Newzroom Africa. Let's come back to you then, Vatuka, to say from what we're hearing from Muremedi, from Mzeti, from yourself as well, it's one clarity on what is regulation. What would the taxi industry or the e-hailing sector consider as regulation? And 2, who should be regulating, right? And then 3, how should they be regulating?
Okay. One, just as a point of clarity, my role is head of presidency at National E-Hailing Federation of South Africa.
Right.
To move past that, regulation looks like this to us. We believe within a regulated framework, government will be the custodian of the participants within the sector. Government will then ensure that there is an oversight body that will work with industry players and stakeholders, that will clearly define how each stakeholder participates, to clearly define how many vehicles must participate.
Yeah. Well, they'll say they've got something called the Gauteng Provincial Regulatory Entity. You don't recognize that?
Well, look, I'm not saying we don't recognize it, but we're trying to also then make national recommendations. And in that national recommendation framework, we are then saying these are the principles that should govern an ecosystem. For example, in telecoms, you've got ICASA that then said these are the conditions you must meet, and these are the amount of licenses we are going to issue.
Yeah.
As a government, we therefore need an oversight body that will say, as transport is evolving into something else and technology is making and deploying more solutions, we must therefore adapt critical organizations to more inclusive. So we've got more inclusive representation within our councils. And therefore, within that position, we will therefore be able to identify the terms in which an e-hailing company can participate within the South African economy.
Right.
The rules must be set because a regulated environment will ensure that the labor rights can be protected. It can ensure we can deploy social protections. It can ensure that the domestic investment, the vast domestic investment from our country, is no longer exploited by Uber. They can no longer decide that they don't want this car or that car. They can no longer decide independently. But more importantly, and this can be globally proven, where a price-determining instrument has been put into place, where government has taken control of pricing, Uber leaves, and our MECs within the National Transportation Act are empowered under Section 66 to set pricing within industry. And not a single MEC has been brave enough to do so, although people have been burning in the boots of cars for years now. So,
Donald, I believe that that's what the ministerial powers, as envisaged by the National Land Transport Amendment Act, allow for the minister to do. She can determine pricing. But what do you make of this call of an ICASA type like regulatory body, not maybe a provincial one?
Look, maybe my starting point must be, it is not for the first time the law has been amended to adapt to the new developments in the transport space or in any other space. In the transport space, in the past, in as far as this act is concerned, we do not have a space for what we call meter taxis. And at a particular time, a law was amended, especially around a decade ago, to give effect to how to give effect to the fact that there is this existing new player, which is the meter tax. Regulations were passed. Minister, with the powers that were empowered by the Act, devolved those powers to the provinces and municipalities. People who participated in that space had permits and regulations were there. So the taxi industry knew what are the boundaries, the meter taxi knew what are the boundaries. We are now sitting with a new phenomenon, as my colleague is saying. This new phenomenon is a phenomenon of what we call e-hailing. We have passed the Act. What the minister must do together with the provincial and municipal counterparts is to now pass regulations. What will these regulations be about? The regulation should be about how many per which route and how to define the route. That is what must happen now. And that's the only thing that's creating a problem now. So we shouldn't reimagine the space. What we must do now is to ensure that these regulations are in place. Colleagues in the department do their work, ensure that these regulations are in place. When they are there, you now know if you are in Polokwane, there can only be 20 e-hailing. And that can be maybe 12 balls, 12 Uber, whoever is the player. But that needs to be regulated. And at what time? Where do they move? how do they move? How do they interface with the taxi industry there? How do they interface with metered taxi there? Now, the problem you have is when you don't have this regulation, as my colleague has just said, you then have a problem where you don't even know how to control these people. You don't even know who's operating, who's a driver. Things like that must be enacted in terms of regulation. The law is there, the parliament has done, put in place. When there was a necessity for the law to be amended, we amended the law to ensure that we give effect to this. So colleagues in the departments must now move as speedily as possible. And I can assure the people of South Africa, we're going to be sitting hard on the department to ensure that these regulations are finalized. Just late this afternoon, I was trying to speak with my colleagues in the portfolio and the department to check how far are these regulations, because that's what then will then create a problem. And if we can resolve that, we shouldn't be sitting here discussing this at that particular point.
A strong push for the regulations to be put in place, which is what Sibongiseni was saying. Even though they sit in that crisis committee, they are still seeing no move as far as the regulations is concerned. Now, Sibongiseni, what are the temporary measures, that you're discussing there while the regulations are still delayed? One of the other issues, for example, one organization is raising here is calls for police response unit amid the rising violence against drivers. Do you think that would help?
Yes, that will help. Well, at the moment, we are sitting in a crisis committee. We're talking about the current act, whereby people are being encouraged to apply. They've been using the metered taxi permit as an interim all along. They're being encouraged to apply, but people don't believe in government. Our members, we've been telling them that you need to comply, you need to apply for permits so that we need to bring about controls in as far as the supply and demand is concerned. But people don't believe the 600 rand that he's going to be paying because of they're struggling. As I've indicated, that the working environment is no longer conducive, no longer profitable. So now the 600 rand is quite a lot for someone to gamble and go and apply for a permit that he doesn't know that he's going to get it or not. They totally don't believe that the government will be able to deliver because of they've applied before. That the other guy has mentioned that he has applied more than 4 times. That has happened to them. When you apply for the permit, you need a demarcation. You need to have a starting point. In the e-hailing sector, there's too many of applications, and also the starting point does not apply based on the system itself. You can have what you call a call at any given time as you drive. It's a roaming kind of service. So now we need to adjust the laws to accommodate that. But at the same time, that has been spoken about. As I've said, I indicated that we have made these inputs at Parliament, and they have not come to pass the regulation as yet. But as things stand right now, who would have expected that the regulation they also speak to the tech companies as well, because we got clients, so-called clients, who are also criminals, who request you using unrecorded SIM card, and they will hijack you, they will do anything. So now we need that to be regulated as well. So the app companies, they must not just load drivers that are not vetted enough, and they must also not load commuters or riders that are not properly vetted in as far as the picture and as far as the record SIM card.
Sure. Right, that's a lot there that still needs to be certainly put in place as far as regulation is concerned. Katlego in Tafloop calling us as well. Katlego, good to have you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm well. Hope you're well too.
I'm good. I just want to note a view that the other sector that is troubling the transport in general is that, in most cases, when the victim is victimized by this situation, we intend to go to the police station and report this issue. And then the matter will go to magistrate. Magistrate will just easily give the suspect bail just like that. So I think the point I'm trying to say is that even the police, they are contributing on this situation. So at some point, they should be held accountable. And I think it is fairness for you to call perhaps the commissioner to come on SABC and explain on this situation, to say this is not the first time, or if it comes to our attention, what are the steps that are you accounting, and what are the measures that are you willing to prevent? Because of killing someone on duty, that is unfair and that is very cold. Yeah. Because of this is not happening in Gauteng, even here in Limpopo, actually in all 9 provinces. It's a national issue, you see.
Indeed.
So I think I had even the MEC trying to cool the situation down, but I was hoping that even the minister himself from transport, even the minister from police should intervene, but it seems like everyone is holding arms.
Katlego, I appreciate your call there in Turfloop, and thank you very much for coming on. Gentlemen, we are out of time. Let's leave it there for today, but I'm sure this conversation will still continue. I'll have you back again as soon. Sibongiseni Shange, Duka Mbelengwa, as well as Donald Silamulele. Right, your latest headline news when we continue. Stay with us.